You have found the Behind the Lines podcast presented by BetMGM, part of the Lines Podcast Network. My name is Stephen Andress, joined each and every week on this show by Christian Cipollini, sports trading manager over at BetMGM. In this episode, we will look back at the week that was betting in the NFL in Week 16, Christmas weekend. We will also look ahead to the early week spreads and totals for week number 17. And we will also take a peek at the NFL MVP market because for the third consecutive week, we have a new favorite at the top after Lamar Jackson and the Ravens upset the 49ers on Christmas night. Christian, first of all, how are you, my friend?
Good. It ended up being a fun football weekend. Ended up doing okay for the book too. Yesterday was good for the book.
Yeah, I was kind of playing a tug of war all weekend. Like, how much is too much football on Christmas weekend where I don't want to piss off my wife, and how much is not enough to like make sure I know what's going on. So we demoted the Sunday night game between Patriots and Broncos to my cell phone and upgraded Love Actually to the big screen. So it was a good weekend, a little bit of balance, but yeah, that Monday nighter between the Ravens and the 49ers certainly was the big headline. So let's start with the positive here for the public. What were some of the public wins in Week 16?
Yeah, most of Sunday, the 1 o'clocks and 4 o'clocks went very well for the public. I think 9 of 8 favorites ended up winning. It was a lot of tight spreads, everything under 4, but the Lions winning was huge for the public, along with the Browns. Those were two that we took mostly Browns and Lions money on throughout that day. But it was, yeah, pretty much everything on Sunday from 1 o'clock to 4 o'clock. The book was starting to sweat from there.
Yeah, Browns make sense to me. You got the best defense in the league potentially facing a backup quarterback with C.J. Stroud not in there. Wasn't all that big of a spread for that game, so I certainly see why the public would be on that. On the flip side, Christian, what were some of the biggest public losses?
Yeah, a lot of those came yesterday.
Oh, yeah.
The Chiefs losing was one of our biggest outcomes of the week. That one was very huge. The Giants covering helped the book for sure. Into Saturday night, Chargers covering was good, and then obviously Sunday night was the one that really saved the book from it being favorites dragging all the way into yesterday with New England upsetting Denver there. Although it didn't get as much action normally as a Sunday night game would. That stopped the bleeding of all the favorites winning for us.
Yeah, it makes sense to me why it didn't get the same action as a normal Sunday night, right? It's Christmas Eve evening. Maybe perhaps that's why NBC moved their crew to the Saturday game instead of the Sunday night game, which got moved to NFL Network. So I guess good strategy in terms of TV ratings potentially too on the network side of things there. Let's move forward here to Week 17 in the early week spreads and totals over at BetMGM. And we start with Thursday night, where the Cleveland Browns continue to see their price increase here, in my opinion, Christian.
Yeah, there was definitely some question marks because they've gone through 4 different quarterbacks, but now that Flacco's been playing and playing pretty well, this one lands at Browns with 7-point home favorites with a 36.5-point total.
Yeah, for me, this is very expensive for Cleveland at this point, but I get it, right? I mean, they're playing the Jets. It looks like it might be Trevor Siemian again. I don't know if it's going to be Zach Wilson or not. I'm guessing you guys, as the book, don't really care too much either way who the quarterback is for the Jets at this point. This line is more about the Browns, I would assume.
Yeah, those quarterbacks are rated pretty similar. This Browns defense has been very good at home. Jets offense doesn't score most weeks. So you would imagine that this is one where, yeah, we have it pegged as the Jets aren't expected to score very many points.
The other note I'll have is just the total here, because in recent weeks we've been talking about on our shows the Browns with Joe Flacco at quarterback becoming a lot more pass heavy, like one of the league leaders in terms of how often they pass the ball in situation neutral. And we're seeing a total here of 35.5, 36.5. So to me, this is about a doubt in the Jets offense being able to do their part to potentially get this game into the 40s against a very strong Browns defense. At the same time here, I wonder, if it's not the total I'm going to bet again in a Browns game, perhaps it's the Cleveland team total that I might be interested in here. If you divide 36.5 by 2, you get 18.25, and then you add 3.5, and you get an implied team total of just under 22. That still might be something I'm interested in this game, considering just how pass heavy the Browns have been with Joe Flacco. And just a quick peek at the Thursday night forecast, about as nice as you could want for Cleveland in late December. We have 46 degrees, no precipitation, and most importantly for games in Cleveland, not much wind at all, less than 10 miles per hour. So perfect for Cleveland in a December football game. So I'm going to be thinking hard. I haven't bet it yet, but definitely thinking about the Browns team total over in this one with the resurgence of Joe Flacco in this offense. Also, Joe Flacco, by the way, for everybody, now the second choice in comeback player of the year odds. I still have no idea how the voters are going to look at this. It might just still be DeMar Hamlin, but at least notable that Flacco has risen to the second choice in comeback player of the year markets. Okay, Christian, we only have one Saturday game this week. The ESPN Monday Night crew will be broadcasting it, and it's a good one.
Yeah, it's a very good one. We just talked about a very low total. This one's a very high total. Lions at the Cowboys. Cowboys are 6-point home favorites with a 53.5-point total, which is the biggest of the weekend.
Just off the top of my head, I can't remember a total this high since the first month of the season, before we all kind of realized and started adjusting to the state of scoring in the NFL. To me, this total matches, I believe, what the Thursday night kickoff was between the Chiefs and the Lions. So I get it. Two amazing offenses, two defenses that have been struggling a little bit. You're on the turf in Dallas, where the Cowboys have put up monster points this year. 53.5 requires the teams to be successful and convert touchdowns in the red zone if we're going to see over this total. So it would only be under for me, believe it or not. But I'm going to have to think about that one as well. Christian, let's move ahead here to the Sunday slate of games on New Year's Eve and the 1 o'clock window.
Yeah, a lot of games here in the 1 o'clock window. Patriots at Bills. Bills are 12.5-point favorites with a 41-point total. Falcons at the Bears. Bears are 3-point favorites with a 38.5-point total. Raiders at the Colts. Colts are 3-point home favorites with a 44.5-point total. Rams at the Giants. Rams are 6.5-point road favorites with a 42-point total. Cardinals, Eagles. Eagles are 9.5-point home favorites with a 47.5-point total. Saints at the Bucks. Bucks are 3-point home favorites with a 42.5-point total. 49ers at the Commanders. 49ers are 13.5-point road favorites with a 48.5-point total. Panthers, Jags. Jags are 6.5-point home favorites with a 37.5-point total. We have Dolphins, Ravens, another good one here where Ravens are 3-point home favorites with a 47-point total. And then our last of the 1 o'clocks, Titans at Texans, where Texans are 3.5-point home favorites with a 42.5-point total.
Let's circle back to the Dolphins at Ravens game. Obviously a huge one in the AFC. Ravens clinch the 1 seed if they beat Miami at home in this game. We'll table the MVP discussion for the end of the show, but I want to talk big picture here with the state of this team. Each and every week at thelines.com, we do our power rankings, and we rank based on who we would have favored on a neutral field for this week and this week only. We are still collecting all of our staff opinions on this. We only have had 5 staff members get their power rankings in at this point on Tuesday morning after the holiday weekend. But I can tell you that 3 of the 5 did put the Ravens number 1. 2 of the 5, including me, still have the 49ers at number 1. For me, that game was about Brock Purdy turnovers. Big picture, when handicapping the NFL, I am of the opinion, and I know I'm not alone in this, that turnovers are not predictive week to week, and the Niners still moved the ball pretty well offensively in terms of yards per play in that game. I also need to acknowledge that the Ravens have a rare defensive coordinator in McDonald who, like Belichick, can scheme game plans and change his defense week to week depending on what the offense is presenting. So extremely impressed. I have the Ravens at number 2 now. In your opinion, Christian, after that Monday night game, where are the Ravens for you in the pecking order?
Yeah, so try not to go too much week to week, and overreact over things that happen. So like obviously Brock Purdy had a very bad game, which led to 49ers losing there, but things can kind of happen week to week. So at least for us, we still have the 49ers rated as the best team in the league, and they wouldn't be all the way up to 6.5 point favorites like they were yesterday, but they would still be probably about a field goal, maybe to that 3.5 point favorites, if they were to meet, again.
Interesting. Yeah. The other thing too for me here is they were banged up at the end of that game, but it seemed like Brock Purdy was okay to come back in if the game wasn't out of reach. Same with Trent Williams. He was walking around on the sidelines. We'll see about their status. Don't necessarily need him this week against Washington um, to keep control of the one seed in the NFC. So if I need to check the rest of their offensive line though as well. So that's at least the big thing I'm monitoring at this point this week with the 49ers is the health of their offensive line. Other games here in the 1 o'clock window, Christian, we'll see about CJ Stroud. He had a setback trying to come back from the concussion last week. This spread right now at 3.5, I assume is a Stroud number or very close to the Stroud number and not in the middle. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, 2 straight weeks with a concussion is pretty rare to miss. I'm not sure if we've seen one where it's been a 3 week concussion one. Maybe someone who had a lot of concussions would
Like
have been
Tua
in
last
one of
year is the
those.
only thing I can think of, right? Like a repeat offender. But
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, exactly.
so this, I
So
agree with you. This would be rare to see it 3 weeks in a row.
yeah, exactly. Since he also doesn't have a big history of it, so this is expecting Stroud to play.
All right, fair enough there. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers are red hot here. That's an interesting number to me. They already beat the crap out of New Orleans earlier this year. If there were to be Saints money to get this under 3, I would definitely be interested in Tampa Bay. The only game I've actually bet to this point in week 17 is the New England Patriots plus 12.5 at Buffalo. And to me, it's just a big number for the way Buffalo is playing lately. First of all, they are still struggling to get Stephon Diggs the ball. It's been 4 of the past 5 weeks where he just has not been a big part of this offense, and they've had to go elsewhere with James Cook. And then against the Chargers, Gabe Davis finally showed back up and was productive. I just think the Patriots are still playing really hard, and this defense is really impressive. And if the Bills want to run the ball like they have been over the past month, well, this is about the worst matchup to do that because the Patriots are number one in the league stopping the run across several metrics, including DVOA, success rate, and EPA. And that was going into last week's games. I haven't checked them coming in, but I imagine they didn't get much worse after beating Denver on the road in Mile High. So I just think the way this game sets up makes it really difficult for the Bills to win by a large margin. Basically, 2 touchdowns is what's required here. And I think the market has been slow to acknowledge that since the quarterback changed to Zappy, with the defense still playing well, the Patriots really shouldn't be rated as one of the bottom 3 teams in the league, in my opinion, on a week to week basis. I know their record says that, but I see a bit of a stronger team here than what this is implying, where they should be kind of in that tier with the Arizona Cardinals and the New York Giants when Tommy DeVito's starting. So this was the first bet I made this week, and I'm taking Patriots plus 12.5. Christian, let's move ahead to the late afternoon window here on New Year's Eve, and just 3 games this week.
Yeah, Steelers at the Seahawks. Seahawks are 3.5 point home favorites with a 41.5 point total. Chargers Broncos. Broncos are 5.5 point home favorites with a 38.5 point total. And then Bengals Chiefs, where Chiefs are 7.5 point home favorites with a 45.5 point total.
Chiefs are eliminated from the 1 seed. They cannot get it. So if they win wild card weekend, they will be going on the road the following week in all likelihood here. The current playoff picture as we sit right now, the Chiefs, the 3 seed, would be facing the Buffalo Bills wild card weekend. The Bills sitting as the 6 seed with the Browns as the 5, and the Colts right now at 8-7 are the 7 seed with tiebreakers over the Texans, Steelers, and Bengals all sitting at 8-7. So big cluster there still for the 7 seed, not to mention the Colts in the hunt for the AFC South still. That's still very much up in the air. A three-way tie after all three lose last week. But the Jaguars, if you check their schedule, have the easiest schedule here to close out the year. So despite their struggles, Jacksonville still controls its destiny for the AFC South title. Kansas City by 7.5. Any given week at this point is just a hard button to press, Christian.
Yep.
Like
Yep.
I can't do it at this point. Like they need to show me. And I know the Cincinnati defense has been horrendous, evidenced again by letting Mason Rudolph look like Ben Roethlisberger the other day. But the Chiefs got to show it to me first before I'm betting them to cover more than a touchdown here. And like I get it, I get why the power ratings are leading you guys to put this number up. And I'm just curious, like in recent weeks, as we've seen the Chiefs struggle to put up points, as we've seen them lose games, are you guys still getting the same interest in the Chiefs from the public as you have in recent years at this point?
Yeah, I mean, it happened still yesterday. We took a ton of Chiefs money against the Raiders, so it still isn't really clicking in. There has been times where we've had some of these bigger spreads where, they're kind of realizing and going a little bit against because they haven't covered in a lot of these spots, but it didn't happen yesterday at least. I guess a lot of this also stems from their defense. Their defense has actually been very, very good. Their offense is looking like a bottom 10 team at the moment.
Yeah, it's not great. Not great. And their tackle, Donovan Smith, has missed a couple of weeks. Pacheco got banged up again. Jerick McKinnon is on IR. This might be a Clyde Edwards-Helaire bell cow game for Kansas City if Pacheco can't go. Kadarius Toney missed last week. Travis Kelce might be banged up a little bit still from the Patriots game a couple of weeks ago. Rashee Rice out there getting 12 targets because who the hell else are you confident throwing to? So, yeah, it's at this point, I need the Chiefs to show me that they're fixing it before I lay 7.5 with them. I'll have to look into this a little more before I decide if I'm clicking the button on the other side here with the Bengals at plus 7.5. Over under here might be interesting despite the Chiefs' struggles, just because the Bengals defense has been a dead over team in recent weeks, and we're sitting kind of under that keyish number of 47. So that might be another angle I'm going to look into this week. I haven't decided if I'm pressing the button yet. Let's see here. We have no Monday games this week because that would be a rest disadvantage going into the final week of the season. So just a Sunday night game here, Christian, to wrap up.
Yeah, decent one for the playoffs. Packers at the Vikings. Vikings are 2-point home favorites with a 45.5 point total.
I might bet the Vikings under 3 here. And it really just depends on my risk tolerance on if I want to go through the Nick Mullins experience yet again. We lost Christian here, but we'll wrap up here solo as we wrapped up here. It looks like he just had a connection issue. But for me, the Vikings still move the ball at will. Nick Mullins had 4 turnovers. I mean, I heard a comp from Adam Chernoff earlier this week describing him as Jameis Winston. I mean, he's basically the white Jameis Winston. Moves the ball at will. Do you trust him to not turn the ball over enough? If so, that looks pretty solid. So Vikings -2 here might be a bet for me. I want to wrap up briefly talking about NFL MVP. And Lamar Jackson has taken over as the favorite in the odds at BetMGM. Now -160. That's after Brock Purdy was favored over the field a week ago. And before that, Dak Prescott was the favorite. So I think that this is just a volatile market that reacts week to week to what happens on the field. Do I think Lamar Jackson is the rightful favorite right now? I do, but I'd never bet this price. He also has a very difficult game coming up this week against the Miami Dolphins. And what Matt Brown and I have been talking about on the podcast for months now is that his statistics are well behind the other quarterbacks when it comes to the NFL MVP race. So in my opinion, for Lamar Jackson to win it, he basically needs all the other quarterbacks to keep losing games around him. I think he needs, hey, we got Christian coming back here, so we'll get started. And Christian just talking about MVP here and Lamar Jackson being the favorite. And for me, for Lamar Jackson to win, I think he needs Josh Allen to take a loss. I think he needs Tua to take a loss, and Tyreek Hill. I actually think Tyreek Hill's more the MVP candidate on the Dolphins at this point. I think he needs Dak Prescott to lose to the Detroit Lions or win unimpressively and not put up stats. So I don't think Lamar Jackson necessarily controls his own destiny in this award, Christian. And I'm curious if you tend to agree with that or not, with the stats that he has put up compared to the other quarterbacks.
Yeah, this has to be the most wide open this award has been in this week of the season, pretty much ever. Uh, as you said, yeah, Brock Purdy, massive favorite, into now Lamar is the favorite. He doesn't really have the stats that would normally put someone as the favorite at this point in the season. He just has the record and beating enough good teams. And last night was a good enough one on a big stage where everyone was watching to get him there. But yeah, as you said, I don't think that this necessarily holds. The Ravens have another big game left against the Dolphins, where if they lose that, things could flip very quickly. So it's definitely way up in the air. I do think there's some skill position players in the hunt now. McCaffrey had a big boost yesterday. Tua is definitely still alive. I think Josh Allen definitely still has a chance too. Has another couple good games. They get the Dolphins on the last week of the season. That might end up being a pretty big game. So I think he's got a chance there. But outside of that, I think it is Lamar is definitely not fully safe in this. But if
Yeah.
things hold the way that they are, it'll be him at this point.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. To me as a bettor, and I have a lot already in this market because I was sitting on that Dak 40-1 ticket a while ago. So I've been taking positions here and there on other players. For me, Lamar Jackson needs help, and despite being the favorite here. And for Christian McCaffrey to win, it's important to remember that a non-quarterback hasn't won like since Adrian Peterson many, many moons ago.
2012, yeah.
Yes, so it's been, more than a decade since that has happened. And I do think Brock Purdy's eliminated. I don't see the voters having an appetite for him after what he just put up on Christmas night. I'd be shocked if he wins it at this point. I do think it's McCaffrey if it's going to be a 49er. To me, there's two guys that this opens the door for. It is Josh Allen. I agree with you there. I just don't know how the voters who tend to look at traditional stats more so than metrics will treat such a high volume passer like Josh Allen, who, yes, leads the league in total touchdowns with 40, which is, like 8 more than the next best candidate if you take Jalen Hurts out of the mix because he's not going to win. 8 more touchdowns than the other MVP candidates, at least a lot more than Lamar Jackson, but he also leads the league in turnovers too. So how are they going to treat that? And Dak Prescott still has a marquee game against Detroit. If he lights the world on fire, is that enough to erase from the voters' memories the last 2 losses that Dallas has had? The good answer I would give you is that I have no idea. I have no idea how the voters are going to react to this. I think any bet right now is pure speculation on not only what's going to happen, but how it's going to be interpreted. And this feels like a wait a week situation for me. If Lamar wins against the Dolphins and Dak loses and Josh Allen loses to the Dolphins next week, then, it's probably Lamar. But there's too much for me to have a confident opinion on who to bet here. And honestly, if I'm just trying to take a price and hope for the best, it might be Dak right now again. It might have circled all the way back to Dak for me, believe it or not, because he has the metrics that are near the top, along with Brock Purdy, and far fewer turnovers than Josh Allen. So I don't know. My advice would be probably don't bet it this week, but if you're going to, just take a long shot on Josh Allen or Dak Prescott because Lamar Jackson's numbers are so far behind. But never betting Lamar Jackson at minus 160, to be honest with you, at this point. Christian, if you had to bet one guy right now, I don't know if you're allowed to give this opinion, but if I need to phrase it differently, that's fine. I don't want to break any regulations or anything. But like, who's the most attractive candidate to you on the board at this point?
No, we're okay there. Again, a non-quarterback is so tough, but I do really like Christian McCaffrey here just because I think the 49ers are going to win their last 2. I think they're going to end up with that 1 seed. I'm with you in the fact that I don't think the voters wanted to vote for Brock Purdy before this week, and then now I think that door is pretty much shut on them. not wanting to get him here. So I think McCaffrey actually is going to have a chance. And yeah, if the Ravens do lose this week to the Dolphins, I think he would end up, obviously depending on what's going to end up happening. So I think that's where I'm leaning. But yeah, I'm with you. It's so wide open.
Yeah, I could certainly see McCaffrey. I get it. I get your opinion on that. The question becomes, if he wins MVP, does he also win Offensive Player of the Year? Do the voters split their ticket and then just give it to Tyreek Hill as well for the amazing season he's had? No clue. This is the most fascinating MVP race I've seen. I thought we had it pegged like last week. I thought we had it pegged the week before, and every week somebody decides to just give the award back to the market, and let's have some more fun for another week. Christian, as always, appreciate the insights. Thank you again for joining us. For the rest of you, if you enjoyed it, be sure to hit that like button, hit the subscribe button. Let us know in the comments what you are betting in week number 17. And if you're watching, or if you're listening on the audio side, 5-star review goes a long way. We'd really appreciate it after the long season and the hard work we've all put in here as a staff at thelines.com. For Christian Cipollini, I'm Stephen Andress. Thanks so much for watching. Best of luck with your bets in week 17.